everyone, it's Mimi and Weezus.
Hey guys, what's good?
Today we're going to cover the disappearance and murder of Laci Peterson.
Ooh.
So most of the episode will be targeted towards Scott Peterson and what his charges were and all that stuff. And you guys can tell us at the end what you think really happened. So this was way back in 2002. I say way back like that was in the 1800s or something, but like I think I was in second grade.
Right, she was like back in the 1900s. We used to now.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, dude. So this was December 23rd, December 24th, 2002. Scott murdered, allegedly, right, his wife, Laci.
Yeah.
She was 8 months pregnant at the time. So not only did he murder Laci, he murdered their unborn child, who was due in a couple months, right?
Yeah.
The time frame is weird to me because it says, like, she was 8.5 months pregnant, but her due date was February 10th, 2003. And if she was 8.5 months pregnant on December 23rd, wouldn't her due date just be, like, 2 weeks away?
Yeah. Wait, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know.
I think they got something off.
Yeah, I don't know. Something's off with the numbers, unless that's how pregnancy works. I don't know. Anyways, the baby, his name was going to be Connor.
Damn, Connor, dude. The John Connor, the Resistance.
Yeah. The exact date and the cause of death for Laci and Connor were never determined, you guys. So we don't know the cause of death and never will, probably. He initially reported her missing on Christmas Eve, 2002. And I'm going to go over the story of kind of what happened here. It was like a nationwide trial. This is just like Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson. You know, it was a huge trial like that. We were too young, and now the case is coming back, though. So this is why all this backstory is going to be important to you guys.
For sure.
So Scott was just like, you know that one guy, we did an episode on him, and I can't think of his name right now. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
The other Scott.
Well, his name was Scott too, right? That's why I got... Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the other Scott murderer who murdered his wife and 2 daughters, he did the same thing, kind of, that this Scott did, where he, like, held press conferences, and he went on TV and was like, please bring my wife back, you know, that kind of thing. So everyone supported him. Even Laci's family was in support of Scott.
Oh, man, he was that good of an actor.
Yeah. Then his story got all twisted up. So during this episode, I'm probably going to repeat a few stories a couple times because I'm going to read, like, a huge story here, and then I'm going to go to another part of the case where, like, things are going to come back into the story, so just be warned. Anyways, Scott had claimed that he had been fishing at the Berkeley Marina at the time of the disappearance of Laci.
Yeah.
When he turned out, so where Laci washed up later on the beach was just a few miles away from where he supposedly was that day.
Yeah.
Like I said, he wasn't initially, like, the prime suspect in the murder. They thought, like, just a normal disappearance. You know, people get kidnapped sometimes, people get murdered. That's kind of where things were pointing. And like I said, her family was like, Scott is innocent at the beginning. So, like, how hardcore would that be to be like, oh, her family doesn't even think I did it?
Imagine everyone's on your side, but they're still trying to find your wife's murderer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Later, when it became known that he'd had lots of affairs, dude, the latest one, that was Amber Fry, who a lot of people who are familiar with this case have probably heard of her. She was the one who kind of came forward and helped a lot with the case. She had been told by Scott that his wife, who would have been Laci, passed away a year ago, and so that this Christmas was his first Christmas without her, and blah, blah, blah. So he had this whole, like, lie built up. And so then she ended up working with the police, right? And recording her phone calls with him and, like, trying to get him to confess to her.
Yeah.
So she stepped forward and helped with the case. And he had said to her in one of the videos, he said, or in one of the recordings, he was like, so I haven't been honest with you. I, said...
He's like, I'm not in Paris.
Yeah. Well, because he also lied about being in Paris. She had called him, so the week after, I think it was the week after Laci's disappearance, if I remember correctly.
For sure.
He had called Amber, and he was telling her, oh, I'm in Paris, and I'm by the Eiffel Tower, and blah, blah, blah. He was, like, doing all kinds of stuff like that. There's fireworks here. And then he was like, so I lied. I wasn't in Paris. I was actually, like, doing all this stuff because my wife passed away and blah, blah. I don't know if it was after her disappearance or after the body was discovered, but either way, he's still lying to her, right? And so he never did confess to her, or anybody for that matter. So he claimed his innocence on all the tapes that they had of him and Amber talking. Weird, right? So, yeah. I don't know. He's good at hiding things. So then, let's go to the recovery of the bodies.
Is he good at hiding things, or is he good at making people believe him?
can't even say that he's gonna making people believe him. He just doesn't tell the truth. So like, how are you gonna
dances around the truth the whole time?
Yeah, he'll just deny. You know. So back to the recovery of the bodies. On April 14th, which is months later, the body of an infant boy with an umbilical cord washed ashore at the San Francisco Bay. And we'll get into more specifics of location and stuff later.
For sure.
On the next day, the partial female torso, I might say, missing its hands, feet, head, and some parts of so the lower part of the arm, so that's why it says hands, and I think one leg or something was missing, but everything was torn apart. Autopsies were performed on them, but due to the decomposition, the specific method of death couldn't be determined, so that's why they don't know how they died. Some prosecutors and people from media speculated that Laci may have been suffocated or strangled, but there was no way to prove that, right? Since there were so many missing body parts. The FBI and the Modesto Police Department forensic searched the couple's home, right? You know, they did a forensic, what is it called? Not search, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They looked at Scott's truck. They looked in the toolbox in the back of his truck. They looked at his warehouse and his boat. Only turned up, dude, with one tiny piece of evidence, and it was some of Laci's hair.
On some pliers.
Yeah. But then they can argue in court, okay, well, he lived with her. That was his wife. Her hair could be on anything, right?
Yeah, literally. The amount of hair found in the pliers is like, let's just say if you live with a significant other and they're in the garage with you, it'll be like that amount of hair.
Yeah. It wasn't like a whole chunk of hair, you know, it was just a couple strands.
It wasn't like she pulled out a chunk of hair with the pliers. No, it was just like maybe a couple strands.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll now move on a little bit from that, and we'll go to his arrest. So, he was arrested on April 18th, 2003, in a parking lot of the golf course where he said he was there to meet his father, brother, and his friend Zach for a game of golf.
He's going to hit a quick 9, dude.
Well, and imagine doing that, 3 days after your wife's body and baby's body washed
It was
up?
like this, dude. He's like, I miss my wife, but I got this new stealth too, though. No, I just
I swear to God, Jesus. I swear to God. Anyways, back to the story. At the time of his arrest, he was in possession of the following non-golf items, Jesus. Approximately $10,000 to $15,000 in cash.
Yes.
4 different cell phones, multiple credit cards belonging to different members of his family, an array of camping equipment, including knives, stuff to warm up food, tents, a water purifier, a dozen pair of shoes, several changes of clothes, a T-handled double-edged dagger. I had to write that one down. MapQuest map to Amber's workplace.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. A shovel, rope, 24 blister packs of sleeping pills, Viagra, and his brother's driver's license. So they think that he was trying to flee to Mexico because he was right there on the border.
I don't think maybe he was, but I don't think that's what he had in the car was like a kill kit. It was more like I live in my car and I kill people or kidnap people.
Well, it seems kind of like he was going to kidnap Amber a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Why does he need the Viagra and the sleeping pills?
Right.
So he can drug her and do the worst?
Yeah, we automatically think the worst, but it probably was.
Yeah. Well, so they find him like that, and they assumed he was running. Here's the other thing that makes him suspicious. His hair and his goatee had both been dyed blonde, although he claimed that his hair got bleached from swimming in his friend's pool because of the chlorine. And then his friend later testified and was like... He's never been to my pool, nor my hot tub, so I don't know what he's talking about, dude. So, weird, right?
Damn.
So there's just a little bit of...
That's messed up. His homie didn't have his back, though. No, I just play...
Well, I mean, it kind of is. You know right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll go on to the trial now. So, prior to his arraignment, Scott had been represented by, a veteran criminal defense attorney named Kirk McAllister. McAllister had met with Scott prior to the arraignment. When Scott was arraigned, though, he told Judge Nancy Ashley that he could not afford the services of a private attorney. So then, you can't afford it, right? Well, that sucks. You're definitely going to jail. Well, then Chief Deputy Public Defender Kent Faulkner was also one of the attorneys that ended up getting assigned to Scott's case. So the story just takes a turn. All of the trial stuff gets a little intense, so hold on, guys, because we'll get to more later. So Scott indicated that he had, all of a sudden, now... money to hire private counsel, and then he gets an attorney named Mark and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Garagos or something. It's something weird. I don't know. He had done other high-profile cases, so he was good to go, right? On January 20th, 2004, due to the hostility that was increasing against Scott being in the Modesto area, a judge moved his trial to Redwood City. Because people were being mean to him, dude.
People were like, he's a killer.
Yeah. Like, because he was, dude.
And then he was like, stop it. I'm not.
He's like, guys,
stop it.
Stop. Anyway, so the trial, which was called The People of California versus Scott Peterson, began June 2004, and was followed closely, dude, on TV and stuff by media. The lead prosecutor, his name was Rick, and the Mark guy, led Peterson's defense, right? So, prosecution witness, here's when things get wild. They bring in Amber Fry, dude. She got her own attorney, named Gloria, to protect her because the media was just going crazy on her, right?
For sure. They were being like, it's because of you, he killed his family.
Yeah, just things like that. Well, all of the people in this case had a gag order, which means you cannot talk about this case outside of this courtroom.
Ooh.
So, Gloria, Amber's attorney, was not bound by the gag order that was imposed on everyone else. But although she maintained that her client, though, this whole time had no opinion on whether Scott was guilty, she was openly sympathetic, to everybody. She felt horrible. She was on TV all the time, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that lady really doesn't have anything to do with the story, but I just wanted to add her in there because she was a big part of it. So, Peterson's defense lawyers based his case on the lack of direct evidence, which there was.
Yeah.
You can't... the hardest thing for a lawyer to do is prove that someone murdered someone without knowing how and when or where, with what, what did they do? So how do you prove it? So that's what Peterson's defense was doing. They were saying, okay, well, show us the facts.
Yeah, dude, where's the Carfax at?
Yeah. And they were downplaying the significant circumstances of evidence that they had, sorry, I didn't mean to say circumstances, I meant to say circumstantial evidence that they had. But they suggested that the remains of the fetus were that of a full-term infant. The baby that washed up on the shore was too old to be the baby or too young to be the baby. They started doing that kind of thing.
Oh,
so they had to bring in all kinds of scientists and all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
They suggested...
Drag it on as long as possible.
Yeah. So, like I said, they suggested in court that the baby was a full-term infant, and they had a theory in court. His defense did. And they said that someone kidnapped Laci, someone else did, it wasn't Scott, held her until she had the baby, and then dumped both the body in the bay. They tried to say that in court. However, the prosecution's medical experts were able to prove that the baby had never grown to full term and died at the same time as the mom died.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, see?
Yeah. Mark Garagos, the one that I can't pronounce his last name, he suggested in court that a satanic cult kidnapped the pregnant woman and took the baby out. And there was a lot of accusations.
See, dude, how messed up the world is now. I would believe it, but not back then.
Yeah. Well, and he said, well, hear me out. When he's trying to say the stuff about the satanic cult, he goes, Scott is, not an honorable man for cheating on his pregnant wife, but he ain't no murderer.
But he's not a murderer.
Yeah, but that's what they always do. Well, the case gets a little more hectic now.
Yeah.
So early on in the trial, one of the jurors was removed due to misconduct, and he was replaced by someone else. It was a complaint because someone got a video of the juror walking through the hall and talking to Laci Peterson's brother, Brent. And that is not okay when you're in the jury. So he got removed. Later, the jury foreman that they had, he requested his own removal, and they're not sure why. They just assumed that the other jurors wanted to replace him, but then he ended up going too. Okay. So Mark, that lawyer, he told reporters that Greg Jackson, the jury foreman I was telling you about, had mentioned that he received threats when he requested to be removed from the jury.
Oh, man.
Sketch, right?
So it got real quick.
Mm-hmm. On November 12th, the new jury convicted Scott Peterson of first-degree murder with special circumstances for killing Laci and second-degree murder for killing the unborn baby, Connor. The penalty phase of the trial began on November 30th and ended on December 13th. At about 1:50 p.m., they sentenced Scott to death.
Let's go!
Yeah, so they gave him the death penalty. Later, in press appearances, members of the jury stated that they felt that Scott Peterson's demeanor, specifically his lack of emotion, and the phone calls to Amber in the days that followed, just indicated that he was guilty. They based their whole verdict on, and I quote, hundreds of small puzzle pieces of circumstantial evidence that came out during the trial, from the location of Laci Peterson's body to the myriad of lies her husband told after her disappearance. They also decided on the death penalty because they felt that Scott betrayed his responsibility to protect his wife and son.
Okay, so what they're trying to say essentially is that he let his, he willingly killed his wife, right?
Yeah.
And his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Like, they're like, he did it on purpose, so, like, yeah, kill him.
Kill him.
So, and then he got, like I said, first-degree murder for Laci and second-degree murder for the baby. So the difference between the two is that first-degree murder is usually intentional and needs the accused person to have committed premeditated murder. For instance, they could have stalked the victim or done something like that, right? A second degree might be intentional but could be unplanned. That's kind of how they differentiate between the two. So the conviction and the aftermath, dude. This is where things take another turn.
Yeah.
So on March 16th, 2005, another judge named Alfred, he sentenced Scott Peterson to death, calling the murder of his wife cruel, uncaring, heartless, and callous. The prescribed method of execution was lethal injection, and he also denied his request for a new trial. And he also ordered Scott Peterson to pay $10,000 towards his wife's funeral.
Damn, he's like, you killed your wife, now you gotta pay for her funeral too, bro.
Yeah.
You think you're gonna be scot-free? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, then on March 17th, 2005, which is the next day, Scott Peterson arrived at San Quentin, dude. He went straight to San Quentin.
You think he's gotten beat up or, stabbed for what he did in jail?
I'm sure. I'm not sure. We got to look up that fact because I'm not sure. But what I do know is that, he, just like Gypsy Rose and just like, other people, he got large amounts of fan mail and wedding proposals in prison and stuff, even though he killed his wife. Isn't that insane to you?
Damn, baby girls were hitting you up like, could you please make me disappear?
Yeah, probably, dude. Anyway, so when he got to San Quentin, which, by the way, overlooks the bay where Laci's body was found, or discarded, not found, sorry. And it houses all the men's death row. It's about 20 miles north of San Francisco. And he joined 643 other inmates that were also awaiting the death penalty by lethal injection in California.
That's pretty scary. Just imagine you get sentenced to death, right? But they don't tell you when you're gonna die. It's just a random day. You're just chilling, and then
it could be 20 years, dude.
It could be 20 years. Mm-hmm. But even so, let's say it's a random Wednesday. You're just on the toilet, and they're like, "Hey, come to the warden wants to talk to you," and then it's all of a sudden you're just in some straps and you get injected and you're dead.
But yeah, that would be crazy. Any form of the death penalty would be nerve-wracking for the person, just waiting and waiting, and then especially back when they used to get hanged,
I'd want, honestly, out of any kind of execution, I'd like to get my head cut off, because then I know I would just die instantly.
Yeah, it would be quick.
Because the electrocution, you'd feel that. The lethal injection, even if you weren't sedated, you'd feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a lot. But
and then hanging, also, you feel it. So it's,
well, that's what they get, I guess. Right?
Yeah, true.
I don't know.
Maybe
they shouldn't kill their wives and kids.
Yeah.
So, now let's talk about some evidence. Like we were saying earlier, is the evidence against Scott was just largely circumstantial. There's not any hardcore evidence. So, here's some of it, dude. Scott changed his appearance, right?
Yeah.
He purchased a vehicle using his mom's name. He sold Laci's Land Rover. But
damn, had a Land Rover?
Yeah.
In 2004, 3? Damn, balling.
2002.
They were balling.
Yeah. But the the car dealership, dude, they found out later that it was Laci's, and they gave it back to her family free of charge.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they were like, just keep it, dude. More evidence supporting the case was that testimony from a guy named Ralph Chang. He's a hydrologist, and he came on there and he basically said, well, based on the way he pulled out all kinds of science stuff and charts and stuff about the way like tides work and where the body should have washed up or where they came from because of the places they did wash up and blah blah blah.
For sure.
So that helped the case somewhat, and then other people were like, I don't know.
You're a liar.
Well, because it kind of hurt him a little bit because they were like, okay, so this is like a for sure thing, and he said, no, it's probable. It's not like completely precise because it's just science based on water, so weather can change it and this kind of stuff. But based on the time frame, like he didn't think, and I wrote more stuff down about it, which I'll cover in a bit, but he didn't think that the baby had necessarily like washed up where it should be, or like where it washed up, it couldn't have come from the same place as the mom. Like it's kind of what he was saying. Like this is different. So then the affair with Amber, that was just a whole other thing, with the lies and all that stuff in the recordings. In January 2005, still during the trial, Amber Fry released a book, dude, about her experience with Scott. And she got criticized hardcore for that because everyone's like, so you're using the case to get famous and make money. Which is...
Duh.
Duh, dude. Like... Wouldn't you?
Yeah, obviously. If any of the homies act up and where they say you were on To Catch a Predator, on like you were a pedo or something like that, obviously I'd be like, I knew the guy in high school. Homie was a douche. No,
yeah, I would too. Just write a book, dude.
Yeah, write a book. My experiences with this guy in high school, he was a criminal.
Yeah, and then you get freaking rich, dude. Anyways.
I hope so.
So her publisher told Amber that if Scott Peterson got a not guilty verdict, then they wouldn't give her a book deal anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're like, your success thrives on your lover being guilty.
A murderer. Yeah. So then Laci's family also got upset because I guess on the cover of the book, it's Laci, Amber in the middle, and then Scott on the other side.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, anyways... Dr. Charles March, he was expected to be a crucial witness for the defense in Scott's double murder trial, right? One who could single-handedly exonerate the former salesman, Scott Peterson, by showing the defendant's unborn baby died a week after prosecutors say the child died. So things started getting weird like that. They were like, you know what, this is it. But by the end of his testimony, dude, they had their whole case banked on this. They're like, dude, Dr. Charles is going to come up. It's going to be great. No. Legal analysts and the jurors, dude, they were closing their notebooks. They were rolling their eyes. They even snickered at one point. No one believed a thing he was saying. By the end of his testimony, he was, like, slumped over in his chair, and he, like, made a noise like, well, and he said, cut me some slack about the typo that was in his report. Dude, that's a huge thing. You better not have typos.
Man.
So the thing that Dr. Charles March, the one that he messed up, he had to admit that one of the dates in his report was incorrect. Dude, like the most important thing. The most important thing. Yeah, and he was like,
freedom is thriving on this guy, and this guy's letting him down.
Yeah, and he was like, dude, it was an error. It was just a typo.
He's like, I'm just a small boy of 56 years old.
Yeah. Well, then the prosecutor, the people that were defending Laci, they were like, well, how come if that's a typo, you wrote the same date on this other piece of paper?
Oh.
Yeah, dude.
So his whole, let's say, case, or all his evidence was messed up?
Yeah. And that's when he was just like, well, just cut me some slack, okay? I'm stressed. And that was it, dude.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right, dude. I just have something that's like crazy. I know probably a lot of people are like, he did it, right?
Yeah.
He did it. Well, I have a theory for you guys.
Okay.
This theory counts on, some sketchy stuff happened the same day that Laci went missing. He went on that fishing trip, and by that point she was already missing, right? When he went on his fishing trip, supposedly.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly, people say they saw her even when they say that he was on his fishing trip, like walking around, this and that. But a lot of people say stuff like that, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But during the time that she went missing, like literally her front door neighbor, her house was robbed. and her front door neighbor was also pregnant, and was also, let's say, they had the same build as Laci, so it could have been mistaken for her neighbor.
So it could have been like a hit.
It could have been a hit, but here's the thing: it could have been a hit on the neighbor, and let's just say Laci was out walking her dog, and they mistook Laci for the neighbor, and took her out, and then robbed the house.
Yeah, could be, dude.
And then, like, you know, obviously they live in was it San Francisco or San Diego?
San Francisco.
San Francisco, near San Francisco, right? Or the there's water in the San Francisco Bay or whatever.
Yeah.
They could have just dumped there, and then they all evidence would have been like, oh, we washed our hands, you know, let the fishes handle it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is a crazy theory, but let's just say, if nothing was tied to Scott, I would believe it.
The neighbor thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
if nothing was tied to Scott, there's so much things tied to Scott that makes you think, well, he did do it, but if he is innocent and it wasn't true, let's just say, and he wasn't cheating on his wife, then yeah, I'd believe that, you know, there was a hit on the neighbors and they thought it was Laci and they killed her.
Yeah. Well, hear this, okay? Tell me about your theory after I tell you, like, these next two things that I wrote down.
Okay.
So Scott Peterson, we'll just say, never needed the media's help, right, to seem guilty, because let me read you off these next few things.
Okay.
So everyone thinks, you know, he seemed to have, like, this perfect life. He had a good job, his beautiful, smart wife, baby on the way. Seems like the picture-perfect Lifetime story, right?
A honey on the side.
Yeah, literally. Like, it seems like he just was some happy-go-lucky guy. But he had already been cheating on Laci with a string of women, at least since the beginning of their, like, 5-year marriage, right? Not just Amber. It happened before. He did not want to be a father, and he told relatives that he was, and I quote, hoping for infertility at one point.
Ooh.
Yeah. Dude, he was under a lot of financial pressure. He apparently had his business failing. 2/3 of his paycheck was going to pay off loans and the interest on a $20,000 credit card debt that he had.
Oh, man.
So on the morning of December 24th, 2002, Scott claimed he left Laci, his 8.5-month pregnant wife, right? And she was gonna stay home, do some intense house cleaning, get ready. He was gonna stop at the warehouse, and then what did he do instead? He originally told people he had a golf trip planned the next day.
God.
So he messed up because he told people, "Oh, I'm going golfing tomorrow." And then he ended up telling investigators at one point, like, it was too cold at the golf course, so I went fishing instead. They're like, so the golf course was too cold, but being on the water in a boat fishing in the same temperature, yet colder, windier, and wetter, wasn't too cold. Like, so now this isn't adding up, you know? Well, apparently he stopped at his warehouse, then he went fishing. He later told authorities that he had decided to just do an impromptu fishing trip at Berkeley Marina. I think that's how you say it. It's about 90 miles away. He had to pass a couple other bodies of water to get there, let's just say. So what I'm saying is nothing about his trip to the bay was spontaneous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it clearly seems premeditated. So here's another thing. Scott, dude, he wasn't a regular fisherman.
Yeah.
His last fishing license was in 1994.
So
8 years before this.
So homie was fishing illegally, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, he was either fishing legally or not fishing at all.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Fishy.
He started researching boats to buy on December 7th, 2002. So this is just 2-3 weeks before Laci's disappearance. On December 8th, he did an extensive web search for fishing supplies and tidal currents around the Bay Area. He even zoomed in on Brooks Island, where authorities believe that he took Laci's body on Christmas Eve.
Oh, man.
He paid cash for a fishing boat on December 9th. That is also the same day that he told Amber that he had lost his wife a year earlier, and this was going to be his first Christmas without her. So then on December 23rd, the day before he supposedly went on his supposedly unplanned fishing trip, he purchased a fishing license, but only a 2-day fishing license instead of purchasing the yearly one.
Huh.
Yeah.
Suspicious.
Although he had already lied and told police that he had left his house on Christmas Eve at 9:30 a.m., his cell phone record placed him at, or at least right near his home, at 10:08 a.m. Just 10 minutes before, dude. But wait, this is just 10 minutes before the neighbor found Laci's dog running loose in the street and returned the dog back home. because they found the dog loose in the street with its leash on. So this was just all part of the plan, right?
Yeah.
And then after he, ended up driving, apparently, to the Berkeley Marina, fishing there for less than an hour, then he came back home around 4:30 p.m., immediately put his clothes in the washer, took a shower, ate some pizza, and then called Laci's mom to be like, hey, the dog was here with its leash on, but Laci's not here. She's missing. Yeah. So he randomly comes back. First thing he does is wash the clothes he was wearing and jump in the shower and eat pizza. Weird, right? That weird. There was more on it. So, but still, this is no evidence. This is the worst part, is that, like, just because he did sketchy stuff, that's not evidence that he killed anyone. There's still no evidence. So, despite all of that stuff, direct evidence in the case was, like, basically non-existent. But they found his blood on the door of his truck, and he just gave conflicting explanations about it. There was never, like, a real thing. A few drops of blood were also found on their bedroom comforter. Then they had the hair in the pair of pliers from the person's boat. Police did match the hair to Laci, sort of. It was like, remember we talked about this, I think, in the OJ case about the mitochondrial DNA match or whatever, and how, like, yeah, it can match, but still can 1 in 100 other people. Like, it's really weird. So then they tried to use that and be like, look, dude, we're not going to use that. It's a silly little test, So they started doing that.
For sure.
Then they found out that he had made multiple cement anchors, like, in buckets. So he, like, poured a ton of cement in buckets. And then when they went and searched his warehouse, dude.
They found one on his boat, right?
They did find one on his boat, but they also found at his warehouse, like, cement powder, like, without water in it, all over the floor. So, that, like, remember he stopped at his warehouse before he went fishing?
So he was pre-making them. Mm-hmm. He's like, gotta get that quick dry.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just... They believe that he used them to obviously weigh the body down. Then his odd behavior just kept going on, dude. So he made strange statements to friends and relatives about the cuts on his hand. I'm not exactly sure what they were. He didn't really have any emotion. He was reluctant to even participate in the search parties. So, if I went missing, Miles and you would be out there searching every day, right? He was like, just no, I don't want to. So... I'd just
be like, I'm sorry, Miles.
Well, the police said that, his cooperation with them was, and I quote, conditional. So he was concerned about all the wrong things. He made repeated non-fishing trips to the same marina that was 90 miles away. He said, and I quote, only to stare into the bay and then leave again after a few minutes.
Damn, he's like trying to look for the body?
Yeah, I guess so. And then this was in January, months before Laci's body actually did wash up. So then and this is what I was saying earlier, the same day the bodies were found, right? That's when Scott Peterson dyes his hair. He takes his brother's photo ID. Why would he need to borrow his brother's ID? Why? There's no other thing. And then, boom, heads for the Mexico border with all that money and all the stuff I told you about earlier. Like, so it makes him seem so guilty. A guilty person wouldn't go through all that trouble, I don't think. Right, dude. But another thing that happened, and you were telling us about this when you said, like, the neighbor's house was robbed. Not only was the neighbor's house robbed, but just, like, less than a mile or two away, the same night, or that same week, it was either that same day or the day after, a van was lit on fire that was involved in a robbery or burglary just down the street from their house to burn evidence.
Got it. What's going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. So, in a nutshell, this is kind of what they said in court. They said their idea of it, this is what prosecutors said, that they think Scott Peterson murdered Laci on December 23rd or 24th, dumped her body into the San Francisco Bay from his small fishing boat, and boom, then it just washed up later. So, and then his attorney said, no. Laci was alive, Scott left early, and when he returned, she was gone. Simple as that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, literally the only form of evidence that they really had was the hair and the pliers, but that could have gone there anyway. Yeah. So, another thing, and this is what some of the expert witnesses said, is that the baby, so remember, like I told you at the beginning, when Laci's body washed up, the head was missing, like half of the arms, on both arms were missing, and like a leg was missing. Yeah. And they assume, sharks, fish, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
The baby was completely intact. Yeah, nothing was missing.
Oh, wow.
So they're like, how could it have been in the water? So, like I said, they didn't know if she had the baby first, and then the baby was killed, or if the baby was cut out of her. Because the body was still mangled, they couldn't tell of any evidence, right? But the autopsy results were sealed by a judge, but someone leaked them. And it was revealed that there was 1.5 loops of nylon tape that were found wrapped around the baby's neck and a significant cut on the baby's body. A cut. The exact date and cause of their death obviously weren't determined, but Laci's cervix was also intact, which they think proves that she didn't have the baby and it was cut out of her and then killed. Wow. They also tried to say, well, the stuff was around the baby's neck because of, like, just debris in the water. They pulled, like, the sea turtle card. You know, they were like, this is why turtles and dolphins die, because of trash in the water. That's why that stuff's on the baby. It wasn't intentional.
I get that.
But it is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
They said the reason the baby's body was still intact is because it was protected by, like, the mom's womb for so long. But I'm like, well, then that doesn't explain how it got out. You know what I mean? I just don't understand any of it.
Just saying that he cut the baby out, you know, put the tape around its neck and then put it back in?
I don't know. I really don't know. Or I don't know if they're saying that because she was, like, torn apart by a fish that the baby got out that way, or because if her cervix was intact, that would mean they still have no proof, or they don't have an exact answer on whether the baby was born before. They did, I think, one of the guys said, without a doubt, he believes that the baby died when she died because of it was still inside of her. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't explain how it got out intact. Unless, like, if it was ripped out by sharks, like, the baby would have had injuries, right? It would have been missing limbs and stuff, too.
Yeah, it would have been the same as the mom.
Cool. Yeah, so it was already decomposing and stuff, both of them. But I don't know. I don't know, dude. It's a crazy story. And I think he is guilty. What about you?
No, I definitely think he did it, but he's also a really good actor.
Yeah. That's the only thing that
makes sense. Or,
sense.
how do I say, he's good at convincing people that he didn't do it.
Well, there was a page that I found, and with all the stuff that we said, they were like, well, here's some possible explanations that would back his story. These aren't things that he necessarily said. They're just saying, here's explanations that they can use in court to say, oh, well, this is why he was here. Yeah. So I haven't read all of them. I'm reading them with you for the first time. So Scott's claim that he'd been fishing in the San Francisco Bay the day Laci disappeared was publicized within days, right? His lawyer could argue that if someone else took and killed her, the killer could have dumped the body in the bay to cast suspicion on Scott. Scott was arrested about 30 miles from the Mexican border, but that's only about 14 miles away from where his parents live. Huh. So you could have said he was going to their house. These and many other things can be explained away. Yet Scott so far hasn't helped himself by speaking about it publicly, is what the guy said in the article.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because that stuff could have been, like you said. Oh, they took a cadaver dog onto his boat, and it barely showed any interest, so they were like, eh. But, I mean, if he did it right away, right?
Oh, and another thing I know is that, like, there's all these witnesses that claim that they saw Laci, like, even after she had died. And there's even people that, you know how he said how Scott sold the Land Rover? Yeah. Well, he also sold some personal belongings because she had a personal watch. That was hers, you could tell. And it was at 2 pawn shops before it was given back to the family.
Dang, dude. I forgot. I did read something about the watch. Yeah, he pawned the watch. Like, dude, you don't just, like, if your wife's missing, you're just going to pawn all her things?
Well, see what I would do would be, like, if we were married, I'd keep the ring. And then let's just say if you wore, like, a diamond necklace, that, and I'd sell everything else. Or I'd probably get your family to come get everything. Yeah. It'd probably be the best bet.
Yeah, I don't know. I have all my stuff. Like, if I die, everyone knows where my things go. Because I don't want no one selling my shit for money, and I worked hard for my shit, dude. Right. Anyways, guys, so please tell us what you think. This was a requested episode, so shout out to Matt for requesting it, dude. I hope you made it this far in the episode.
And please like and subscribe, and download our videos on Spotify.
And if you have any more requests, drop them in the comments on YouTube.
And we really appreciate you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And we out.
Bye.
Yeehaw, brother.